Well, hello there. Joan Collins, or to give her a full title, Dame Joan Collins. What do you feel about her, viewers? Do you like her? Do you not? I would assume that anybody that watches this, and I know there hasn't been a lot because, as I keep saying, we're a very, very new channel. I would imagine those that watch this will be supporters of Dame Joan Collins. So I might get a few knocks for this one, but Dame Joan Collins is one that I'm not over keen on, and I'll tell you why, but you let me know what you think. Well, firstly, she's got a damehood, and I wonder what you have to do to get a damehood. Judi Dench's got one. Get that. Fantastic actress, nice person, great being interviewed. Yeah, I like her a lot. Lots and lots and lots of talent. I thought for things like damehoods, knighthoods and all these things, although sometimes they do get it wrong, you had to have talent. I don't think Joan's got a bundle. Now, some may disagree with me, but I'll give you my thoughts and tell me what you think. This is a thing I have with old Dame Joan Collins, I'm not so sure that she's the nicest person in the world, pardon me, but I'm also not so sure that she's great for women of a certain age, as a role model, if you like. She tries to put herself across as a role model, but I don't think she's extremely helpful to womanhood, and I'll tell you why, but again, I might be wrong. But Joan Collins, I'll tell you what I think of when I think of Joan Collins. I think of Joan Collins I think of her two most memorable films, two very, very memorable films. One was called The Bitch, where she played a bitch. One was called The Stud, where she played a bitch. And then I would suggest the most memorable part on TV was in a thing called Dynasty. Well, funny enough, she played a bitch in that as well. Maybe there's a pattern forming, and maybe I don't know. Does she play herself, or is it all good acting? She plays a great bitch anyway, you know, it's got to be said. But what I would say when I think of Joan Collins is, what I look at when I look at talent is, what have they done? The body of work, what's there? What's there for us to take with us for years and years and years to come? Now, if somebody said to me, or I would imagine to most any Joan Collins fan, and I mean this, most any Joan Collins fan, if somebody said, yeah, well, not do me, because I wouldn't have the answers, we'd ask the most ardent Joan Collins fan, what, in your opinion, what's your favourite 5 Joan Collins films? I think you might struggle to mention 5, to come up with 5. Now, if you were to ask, or be asked, what's Joan Collins' 5 most critically acclaimed films, I'm pretty certain you couldn't come up with 5, because I don't think she's ever starred in 5 critically acclaimed films. So, how does she get a damehood? Is it just longevity? And looking glamorous, is that it? She looks glamorous, we've had her around for years, so let's give her a reward. Do you know what? I think that is it. She puts herself across as a movie star from the Hollywood era, and she obviously mixed with those from the Hollywood era and what have you, but virtually all those movie stars were great actors and starred in great films. I just don't know anything that Joan's been in where it's been brilliant or she's been brilliant. As I say, the two I most remember are The Bitch and The Stud. And what I remember for those 2 films is, 1, she played a bitch and played it well, and 2, she took her clothes off. And took her clothes off at an older age than most would do, which was a surprise at the time. But I don't get it. And going on from that, what Joan's famous for, every time I see her interviewed, is telling all people, women especially, to stay out of the sun because it messes your complexion up and you age too young. I agree with her fully. I think she's spot on. Maybe she takes it a tad too far. Maybe some women with a little sun on them, they like that and they feel better for it. But I agree, it's much better being out of the sun than in the sun. Your complexion is much more enhanced if you're not regularly getting sunburnt. Your skin doesn't weather the same way. So I'll give her that one. She's always going on about people who overeat or people who look obese, people that aren't the weight she'd like them to be. She's always professing how slim she is and how she's kept her weight or lack of weight for many a year. But I've seen items that are talking about her diet and what she eats, and I think I've seen things mentioned like smoked salmon and caviar, and she's not a massive drinker, or she tries to keep calories down. So to that end, I think she drinks champagne. Well, all I would say, most women of this world, or most women of the UK, can't afford regular smoked salmon and caviar, certainly not caviar and champagnes and what have you. So I think she's talking to the wrong people. You know, I think I read that she doesn't cook. I think I read only the other week she does a fantastic spag bol. I read that somewhere. I don't know why I would have done, but I'm sure I did. But that's all she does. So she's a woman who doesn't cook. Well, most of the women of the UK cook. Joan doesn't. So again, she's talking to the wrong people. I think she's got 3 or 4 properties or more throughout the world. I know she's got properties in London. I think it's Paris, or it might be Monaco. I think she's got at least one in America. I believe from time to time she has private cooks. You're in a different world, Joan, than everybody else. You know, different world. But what I must say is, I noted, I seen her on the TV a couple of years ago on one of these talk shows. It might have been a Loose Women kind of show. And I think Joan is always one for telling the cameras where to focus her from and how to focus her and what shot she wants. And this day, it took an unflattering side picture of her, or it went side on, and I don't think she knew that. And it's shown her belly there. That's the first time I've seen a belly on Joan Collins. That was 2 or 3 years ago. I think she'd have been gutted to find that came out into the media. Because I know she professes she's very slim and doesn't put on weight and eats accordingly and really starves herself to an extent. I mean, for someone who's nearly 90, it's great that she's kept her figure, but at the detriment of not enjoying your food and not having enough food. I think that's a shame. But then again, I'm not Joan. I mean, I'm overweight, as I've said. I'm on a diet now, so I need to lose weight. So it's admirable that she's kept weight off. But if somebody said to me, you can look stick thin, but don't eat for 60 years, that wouldn't be for me. But I noticed that the reason I bring old Joan up is I noticed her today on Good Morning Britain. Now, she definitely won't know what they've done today. She won't know how many side shots they had of her. She had a chair pulled in all the way up to the table, so you can only get her from there upwards, just under her chest, shall we say. But from side on, you could see the belly and whatever else, and she's put on even more weight. And she definitely won't be happy with the filming today, because I'm telling you now, she's expecting to be camera from front on only and not side on. So she's not as perfect as she may seem. And I don't think she should be pushing it down the women of GB's throats about keeping weight off and whatever else when she's not as perfect as she says herself. And that leads me to the last story about old Joan. Read something in a magazine only about 3 weeks ago. 2-3 weeks ago. I mean, she's trying to keep herself in the media. Obviously, they all do. She probably tries harder than anyone else because she's not had any parts in, I don't think, TV or film for God knows how long, or nothing of any substance. She photographed herself in a jacket. I think she was bragging that she bought this jacket just over 50 years ago. It might be nearly 60 years ago, and it fitted like a glove then, and it still does now. And she was bragging how she can still get into it and it fits her great and what have you. Anyway, they took this photo from probably 8 to 10 yards away. So she's 8 to 10 yards away in the right lighting. Her face looked absolutely flawless. And when I say flawless, I mean flawless. I would suggest it's not only tons of slap, but loads of doctoring as well. Her face didn't look like that today on Good Morning Britain. Don't get me wrong, she's not that bad for nigh on 90, but not as good as she professes. Anyway, this picture was taken. You had people writing in the week after saying how fantastic she looks and how great she is for the older crowd. And one of the letters I loved, one lady said, "Oh, I know Joan pretty well. I live around the corner from her in London. I often see her when I'm walking my dog. I'll tell you now," she said, "that's not the Joan Collins that they had in the magazine last week. That looks nothing like her. That's been very, 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 very doctored." And that says it all to me about Joan Collins. You know, I think she's extremely false, yet trying to get people to look more like her when she doesn't look like she's professing to look anyway. I really don't feel she does, and I think that's wrong on the women of Great Britain. They've got enough pressures on them at the moment. Women, we're trying to pay for food and pay for energy and whatever else. They don't need somebody like Joan throwing stuff down the throats as how they should be. She's from a privileged position. The women of GB, the main women aren't. So she lives in a different world. So I think, the advice about keeping out the sun, Joan, yeah, I agree with that. But not much else, my dear. Not much else. But this is one, as I say, where it'll probably be my crosshair section. Joan isn't somebody that I would have given a dame or two. Joan isn't somebody that I would class as a movie star. Joan isn't somebody that I would look up to. And I'm surprised some people do. But I know they do. But that's just my opinion. If you agree, let me know. If you don't, again, let me know. It's not going to hurt me either way. But seeing her today, I thought I'd comment on her because she is one of the people that I often comment on to others. I don't know. I think she's not of this world. She's, her head's in the clouds a little bit, and I don't think she realises what modern women have to go through in this country. I really don't. And I don't think she understands herself. But anyway, that's my opinion. Let me know either way. I've rambled on enough, and I am sorry for that.